You wanna go first?
My name is Sheldon Shepherd.
My name is Storm Saulter.
And you're watching Reelblack.
Let me tell you that. Let me tell you that. Let me tell you that. Join the crowd. Lights, camera, action, it's on. New black film revolution born. Movers, shakers, big and little filmmakers. Let's make a movie today, see where it take us. Halle Berry, Denzel, and Jamie. Terrence Howard, Mike D, and Spike Lee. Brand new filmmaker born every day. Put a camera in his hand and let him lead the way. Let me get an Oscar, let me get an Emmy. Reelblack woke up the filmmaker in me. Whether digital, 8mm, 35. Let's make the movies that can open the eyes. Let's tell the stories that need to be told. Make them laugh, make them cry, for the young, for the old. Come on, let's shake it, make it and make movies. Reelblack, I really like the way you do me.
Hi, this is Mike, and you're watching Reelblack, and today we're with Wayne Blair, who is back, and he's here in the States.
Yep.
And he's won a slew of Australian Oscars for his movie, The Sapphires.
All right, first up, we've got sisters from the place called Cromararunge.
Well, today I started loving you.
That wasn't terrible.
Read this, will ya?
Singers and dancers wanted in Vietnam.
Why are you showing me that?
You need a job, don't ya? We're offering you one.
You're black, and you're singing country and western music. It's just wrong.
Well, what do you think we should sing?
If you want to perform for the brothers in Vietnam, you gotta give them soul.
What would this dopey white fella know about soul music?
My blood runs Negro, woman.
Just for people that don't know, who are the Sapphires?
Yeah, it's great to be here, Mike, by the way. I'm loving Philly. The Sapphires, it's an all-girl group. And the film is about an all-girl group based on a true story that were performed back in 1968 in Melbourne, Australia, and with the help of this Irish musician, went to Vietnam and sung for the American troops. And what they did, they sung soul music. So it's based on that band back in the day in '68.
Love the film. I mean, I love how it mixes cultures, and as an African American, I could certainly appreciate seeing sort of the Aboriginal experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that Tony Briggs, the co-writer of the film, it's his mum's story, and from the outset, that was one of the things that he wanted to talk about, just the relationship between, you know, the African American sort of story and the Aboriginal story, and sort of, you know, it's not the whole part of the film, but it just rears its head, and you just get a little bit of that.
How did you become involved with the Sapphires, and what was your...
Well, I was an actor in the original stage play back in 2005, and the writer, Tony Briggs again, he's a good friend of mine, and he just simply asked me, hey, after the play finished, because we'd get standing ovations, we got a sold out, you know, there's a theatre company in Sydney called the Belvoir Street Theatre Company, and, you know, Jeffrey Rush is a patron of that theatre company. So we sold out there every night for a period of 6 weeks, and we used to get standing ovations, and so at the end of that, Tony got a number of producers, 2 or 3 producers from the States and like 3 or 4 producers from Australia were asking him, like, come on, you know, we can make this into a film. And he was sort of umming and ahhing, but during the process, he sort of said to me, hey, do you want to be the director? So it was just a sort of a promise between 2 friends. But, you know, that was the premise of that too, him being the co-writer of the film, being a person of colour, myself being a person of colour, the cinematographer, Warwick Thornton, who was a Samson Dial, a person of colour, the choreographer. So in those sort of, you know, just to empower ourselves as well. And so that was good, and that was Tony's mission statement from the outset.
What's interesting to me is The Sapphires is one of 3 recent movies directed by Aboriginal filmmakers to play at the Cannes Film Festival.
That's true. Ivan Sen directed Tumala, which was in Cannes 2 years ago. Sapphires, of course, which was our film, and 2 years before that was Warwick Thornton's Samson Delilah, which won the Camera d'Or at Cannes. So 3 years in a row, yes.
Well, congratulations, it's amazing. It's sort of like the doors have opened up at Sundance for African American filmmakers. I mean,
yes.
What exactly is happening over there, do you think?
Look, I think it's you know, the last 30 or 40 years with the indigenous cinema and theatre, it's picked up in Australia, and it's not a sense of picked up. There's more opportunity. but it's you know, it's just fighting the system. You know, the sharpest axe is ground on the hardest stone. So for us, the lifestyle in Australia has been it's been a hard struggle, but yet we found joy and we found heart and humour in ourselves during that sort of journey. And so in the last, you know, 10 years, we're sort of, it's what Spike Lee talks about, the demystification of film. And for me especially, like from my own journey, I thought making film was such a foreign thing. If someone else can do that, please. But in the last 10 years, you know, because I was originally as an actor, and I've just sort of taught myself skills and learnt off the best, both black filmmakers and white filmmakers. And, you know, here I am with my first feature film, and I'm just loving making film. It's sort of no fluke in a sense of, like, to where I am now, the film's worked, but it's the best thing about it is that I've learnt and I'm becoming more confident at what I do. So, but yeah, it's that journey, and suddenly the fruition of it is happening. You know, this is just one story about, you know, these 4 girls that went to Vietnam. These 4 Aboriginal girls. There's the point of difference for those stories. There's so many. So we need more filmmakers. But now it's that process of getting more filmmakers behind the camera. Not just the cinematographers, because there's about 3 or 4 brilliant indigenous cinematographers in Australia, but designers and makeup artists and, you know, grips and gaffers. So that's the aim now. I suppose the dream one day is to have an all indigenous, you know, crew on set, which I think will happen.
I like that. The response has been incredible. I mean, what do you hope people take away from it?
It's one of those films where you can, like, you know, go into the cinema and have a little sort of cry, you know, have a little laugh, and you can sort of walk out of that cinema feeling a little bit more human again. So that's my mission statement, and it's working thus far. I mean, you know, and sort of coming together, and you learn a little bit about the world in itself. You learn a lot about Aboriginal people in the outset, but of course, with the catalyst of this sort of Irish guy, who's fractured in himself, they sort of live a bit of their dreams. So that's a wonderful thing.
All right, Wayne Blair, The Sapphires, you got to go see this movie. It's great.
Move over, Aretha. Pack your bags, Supremes. There are some new cats in town. The Sapphires! You saying because I'm white I can't dance, is that it?
Yep.
Well, that's just racist. You're a racist. You should know better.
Yeah, hey, my name is Wayne Blair, and you're watching Reelblack.
So the greatest advice that I have ever received as a filmmaker was, believe it or not, David Fincher. I don't know him, I'm not name dropping, but I met him at one moment that was really specific and huge to his life, and he stopped in this busy room with everyone trying to get 5 seconds of his time, and he said to me, "The train must leave the station. You pick a day, and on that day, the train leaves the station. You get the actor you want or not, the train leaves the station. You have the money that you want or not, the train must leave the station." And I left that dinner, that moment, boom, walked out and was like, pick this amount of money that we were going to make the film for. Everyone thought I was crazy. I didn't want to make the film for that amount, and I wasn't trying to make it for that amount. But I picked that number. It was really, we would have never been able to make the film. But if we arrived on that day, and that's all we had, we were going to do it. And we made our day based on that sentence that he said to me. Like, the day that we started principal photography after all these years was based on that sentence. So that's my favorite piece of advice as a filmmaker. The most important advice anyone ever gave me as a human being was Hubert Cubby Selby. And he said, "You must forgive everyone. You must forgive everything." Cubby told me that it was time to forgive, like I had to forgive. I would have no progress. There would be no peace. There would be no sleep. There would just be an incredible measure of insanity and unrest. And so I said to him, "Can you tell me what that means? Like, talk to me like I'm a kindergartner. And what does it mean to forgive?" And he said, "Remember only the love that was given and the love that was received." So in everything that I do, if something occurs that I don't like and I want to retaliate, I hear that sentence play back. So it could be as simple as when I walked into a room, someone was kind in the way they received me. There may have been a portion where they disrespected me after I walked through, but I will hold on to the portion where they respected me. if it's in love or in friendship or in family, co-workers, wherever, whatever capacity, something goes off and it's not what we desire and the outcome is, you know, like hellacious, let alone just, you know, sort of messed up or borderline unforgivable to my perception, I will put my attention and my focus on the place where there was kindness. I do not on the thing that went wrong. And I really believe that, like, you know, the more I harbor that shit, it's like soil and fertilizing the soil, and that's what grows. And this is all like corny and cheesy and whatever, and I don't give a shit. It keeps me sane. You know, it keeps me from dislike. It keeps me, when I go to bed at night, you could tell, like, I don't really, like, I'm the one laughing the loudest at any point in any room because whatever, right? Like, I choose that I don't hold on to anything. I don't, there's no time, there's no space. It's too much to do.
We're with Adam Leon today. He's the writer-director of the movie Gimme The Loot, which is playing this year at the Philadelphia Film Festival. And it was also the Grand Jury Prize winner at this year's South by Southwest Film Festival.
Yes.
Anybody who's living up in this fine city knows, but when someone on the Mets hits a home run, this goofy apple pops out of the stands and everybody goes crazy.
Man, come on.
Somebody's gonna write graffiti on that apple, and their name's gonna ring out in our world.
We're gonna bomb that stupid-ass apple. Everybody gonna see our name.
It's about these two graffiti writers from the Bronx, Malcolm and Sophia, two teenagers, and they have a rivalry with a crew from Queens, and it's kind of about their adventures over the course of a couple days as they try to pull off this spectacular scheme.
No, it's a cool movie.
Thank you.
You know, like, it's not kids, I understand.
Right, right.
I mean, it's a film about urban teenagers or black kids in New York City, but it's a comedy.
Right.
I mean, tell us about your inspiration wanting to do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, that was really important. That was a jumping off point before even I had the story. I grew up in the city. I went to public school. I went to a diverse school with a lot of kids from a lot of different all different areas of the city. And then I had co-directed the short film a few years ago that used non-professional actors, used a couple graffiti writers, and it's kind of taken with this idea of these kids that I knew growing up and these kids that I was working with that come from really tough backgrounds. They have, you know, as we like to say, vivid lives, but they're not necessarily all miserable people. And that they're in some ways just kids. So we wanted to stay really true to their existence and what their life is, but at the same time, you know, not necessarily most movies that I see that are about that, you know, everybody gets AIDS or, you know, their parents rape them. And those stories are out there and those stories need to be told too, but hadn't really seen too much in this setting where it was just kids being kids. And I felt like in some ways that humanizes the characters more. And so that was a really essential core idea behind the movie.
Yeah, and you've got some amazing actors. I mean, can you talk about working with the actors and their process? I mean, like, what really impressed me the most and was inspirational to me was like it has a very DIY kind of feel to it. I mean, I know you use like great equipment and great cinematographers and stuff, but it still has a really like you're there kind of feeling. And I know you didn't have a lot of time to shoot. I mean, how do you get the performances?
Yeah, I think that, well, we worked with really talented young actors, and they're mostly non-professional, they're mostly first-timers, but you know, I think sometimes it's a compliment, it feels like a compliment to me, but it sometimes can shortchange the actors. People will see the movie and feel like, oh, I just went and I found these people. And these actors, especially the leads, Ty and Tashiana, are really very, very different than the characters they portray. And the truth is that they're really extremely talented, very focused craftsmen. And we did a lot of, because of the nature of shooting, because of how we did shoot it, very DIY, very sort of homemade feel, which we were trying to embrace. We wanted to go in really knowing our stuff, really being on the same page. So we did a lot of rehearsal, we did a lot of workshopping, did a lot of character work with the actors, and they were great. You know, they were always they always wanted to go the extra mile. Sometimes in rehearsal, I would say, okay, I think we're in a good place with this, and they would be like, I'm not there yet. And so, you know, having that kind of talent that just wants to make great work is why we were able to pull this off.
You always saying, oh, we're gonna be the biggest writers in New York City. Well, do what you gotta do to make that happen.
It's this girl, Jenny, private school girl.
Come in,
inch, the better.
What's the secret in terms of doing a low-budget independent film on the streets of New York? I mean, what's the key? What lessons do you take away from the experience?
I think the key, for me, without a doubt, is a lot of it's about getting lucky, but it's also about putting yourself in the position to take advantage of that. And I think there's sort of two keys. One is being aware that so many things are going to go wrong and not letting that trip you up, trying to use disadvantages to advantages, use everything you can have when something goes wrong. How can this actually help us make the movie better? But really for me, the core thing when you're pulling off a project like this is team building. And that is the cast and that's the crew. And that's the producers and financiers too. Making sure everybody's on the same page, making sure that people want to tell this story and want to tell it together. And because there's so many long hours, there's so many challenges that you're going to face, and if everybody kind of is willing to embrace that and be aware of that and wants to make the same movie, then I think that you can get through it. And I was so lucky to be able to have a great team behind me.
Awesome film. You definitely have to check out Gimme The Loot. This comes direct. It's Reelblack certified.
Wow, thank you very much.
So, hey, it's that.
You're not asking me anything.
You're you.
She's what? Pretty? You soft.
You ain't so tough after all either.
Hey, what's up? I'm Adam Leon, writer-director of Gimme The Loot, and you're watching Reelblack.
I mean, it's definitely, not so much at the Renaissance level that it was in the 90s, but I do see, this next year, a lot of films coming out, starring, African-American actors that were produced or written or directed by African-American talent. So, I'm optimistic, that this next year will continue to help support the trend, which I'm hoping will get us back to, more diverse filmmakers of color, in front of and behind the screen. The other part of it is that while I do see some growth, there's a lot to do. I mean, when you really look at the number of directors the DGA is employing or the number of writers at the WGA, I mean, the numbers aren't good. So, my goal as being part of the studio system is to do what I can to really help bring and usher in new voices and to hire when I can and where I can, because I think it's important as the world has changed. It's not the world is changing. The audience has changed. I mean, we live in a diverse world now. So I think it's critical that film keep up with the way that the world looks, not just with the content we create, but by those who are helping to create the content.
For me, I don't think there's a more exciting place in the world to be making film, because we are in a position to basically define something that has not yet been defined cinematically in a consistent way, right? And I feel that travels across the board for anyone in the African diaspora, because I think we have these classic films. There's definitely been some amazing classics that you can pinpoint, but I think people are just learning. It's like people almost take the audience for a little bit, like they dumb down the audience, you know what I mean? And I think there's so much audience, there's such a big audience for this type of work, for uncompromising creativity. Mus Come is set in the late 1970s in Kingston, Jamaica, at the height of the Cold War, when the Caribbean was really at the front line. And it was a war between the superpowers, but it trickled down to literally a war between communities and gangs that were aligned to either party. And within that, there's a story of a young community leader who's also a single father who ultimately wants his son not to follow in his footsteps.
This movie was shot entirely in Jamaica. This movie was the entire Jamaican cast except for Roderick Guinevere Smith. And he's practically Jamaican. He's like in Jamaica like half the year, you know? Yeah, you know, so that spells authenticity, man. That the fact that this production is doing so well and it is just born and bred from Jamaica, 876, you know? it spells a lot, man.
I hid and watch a lady as she danced. She was dancing to a song that of African origin, and the sound of playing drums were prominent through the dance. She mimed her way to the music, hips pulsating. Her posture was flexible and yet rigid. She danced and she danced and she danced.
I went to the Los Angeles Film School, and after I graduated, I was a PA on a lot of sets, especially music video sets. I was like super PA. I worked so hard, and you do that when you're young, trying to get in, you're trying to impress, and they call me back all the time. Right? So I was in film school, I was PAing a lot. I've had a lot of mentors, One of my earliest and really important mentors was Julian Lutz, who goes by the name Little X, very successful hip-hop music video director. Director X, I believe, is where it's at now. But I met him right after school, and I don't know what I said to the guy, but he basically said, kind of took me under his wing, and I moved to New York City and worked on videos with him and learned a lot from him. But I always knew I wanted to make a film, a feature film. That's what I was bred for. So I eventually met the executive producer, Joshua Bratter, of this film, and I had written a script for him when I was a lot younger, like about 18. And I don't know, the script wasn't ready or I wasn't ready, but basically our paths kind of went like this, and when we connected, I had this story, Mus Come, and he said, yes, that's it. In terms of how real the film is, we did not compromise with our language. You understand? If there's subtitles, there's subtitles. We study great films like Rockers that capture the late 1970s in such a perfect way, and that's what a lot of the actors studied, how they walk, how they talk. And we're trying to capture that magic that is Jamaica, which already people know about. And I think that's what it is about. It captures all of that magic. And it puts into context some of our amazing creative output. Because while all this reggae music was conquering the world, you know what I mean? They were talking about oppression and rising above it, but they were speaking about things happening right on the streets in Kingston. So if you want to know what Bob and what the greats were talking about musically, what they were referring to, this is what they were referring to, because this was the time.
Yeah, man. Hey, let me tell you something. And before I forget, breadfruit is the new bread, baby, and you can't leave off the baby. Think about it. Yeah.
Better Mus Come.
Yeah, man.
But I'd like to bring up right now this brother who has so graciously been instrumental in the film world in Philadelphia. None other than Mike Dennis, y'all. Give it up.
Wow, thank you. I can hold this too. Somebody's taking a picture somewhere.
With photo op.
Photo op, yeah. Look at the scope.
Oh, no, yeah.
Right here.
Oh, okay. Boom.
All right, they're working hard. Okay. Thank you. I get the video too. This is really going on. All right. So I know it's a long night for everybody, and there's plenty more honorees and stuff. But I will take the moment to appreciate this, because it's like my first honor. I've gotten lots of awards at film festivals and stuff, but like I think I'm getting older now, or maybe I've been doing this a long time to get this kind of appreciation, and the video was really cool. Today's February 22nd. I don't believe in coincidences, but coincidentally, it's my cousin's birthday today, and he would have been 45 years old, but we lost him about 5 or 6 years ago. It's really going back for us. And then my grandmother shows up, and she just passed in September, and her birthday, she'll be 95 in March 14, 18. March 14th is her 95th birthday. So it's kind of funny that she would show up at this award, but it's kind of cool too. So thank you to Solandra, and I see a lot of family here. I mean, we started doing screenings in 2003, December 2003 at the Prince Music Theater, and we were showing reruns of old black movies I felt that they hadn't been on TV yet at the time, like things like Uptown Saturday Night and Claudine and things like that. And we just brought them back as rediscoveries, and we sold out immediately. It was a huge hit, and it just gave me the fuel to want to keep doing it. And then I started going, making my own films and going to film festivals and seeing great films and saying, hey, there's no Black Film Festival here in Philadelphia. Why don't you come and let us show your films? So we brought like a lot of Sundance films and stuff like that. And then fast forward, 2011, a woman, Ava DuVernay, reaches out to me and says, hey, you're one of the top film festivals in the country. We want to start what we call the African American Film Festival releasing movement. And we're gonna like find the best work around. And we're gonna give it week-long theatrical runs in the country. And fast forward, like Ava ends up winning Sundance. So we are responsible for bringing her Sundance award-winning film to Philadelphia. And now I'm making my second film, Black Film Now. They never said it's shameless plug, I know. Black Film Now, can you just repeat it for me?
Black Film Now.
You'll get used to hearing that because it's going to be a great film. There hasn't been a documentary in over a decade about the history of Black film, but there's been more Black film made in the last 20 years than the entire history of cinema. And I think it's a crime that people that are studying film now, I mean, I see Alexander over there, he's New Jack, CCP in the house. You know, lots of people want to make film, but we don't necessarily have the resources to communicate with one another about how to make better film. So everybody in this room has an opportunity to be a part of this production. We're doing an Indiegogo campaign right now. If you pick up a card, come see me. I can tell you how you can get your name in the credits and have tickets to the premiere when we premiere the film in the fall. So that's a shameless plug, and I will just leave it at, I gotta squeeze that in. I don't get, very often, we have a show Tuesday, maybe I'll get this many people if we're lucky. Please come out. But the last thing I'll say is the Oscars are tomorrow, so there's no coincidence. I'm not gonna be at the Oscars tomorrow. So maybe I will one day. I hope so. There'll be Black people at the Oscars, which is good. I won't be one of them, but I will accept this as my Oscar. Until it comes to fruition, I'll actually be at the Oscars, and I'll be thanking you guys once again for being my family and my family who's not here celebrating with me. Thank you. Yeah, I've got one here.
Okay.
We always ask, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I was ever given was from Betty Carter, jazz singer, jazz vocalist. And I remember she came to Settlement Music School. I went to Settlement Music School right down the street. And I was in a jazz trio. And back then, I used to sing a lot of runs like Wanye, you know, Boys II Men, like, and I used to scat, but always scat a whole lot of notes, and she told me to shut up. She told me to shut up because people make love in the space, and I'm not giving people enough time to reminisce. And I always remember that.
Yeah. Been sitting here thinking with my head hung low, trying to figure out what it's gonna be. It's been about a year and a month living in a black hole. This misery's had me bound for too long. Yeah, I'm so tired of being stressed out, vexed and oppressed. My God, tell me, Lord, where I got to go. Yeah, it's time to make a change. I know I'll never be the same. Yeah, it's the trials of life that make a man grow strong. So you should never let your mind tell you that you fail. Just will it to happen and it can be done. If you're having a dream, you wanna make it come true. Sure, we like crabs in a barrel. Everybody trying to make a come up, and at the same time, pulling each other down. Oh, but I gotta make a break out, gotta make a break out somehow.